Now we're starting one of my favorite topics in the firm section of the course because this topic really allows us to just get a little glimpse into the way that markets actually work and our experience of markets as consumers. So we're going to talk now about price discrimination. Price discrimination is when a firm is able to charge different prices to different customers based on their willingness to pay or some characteristic that is related to willingness to pay. Willingness to pay really just means the value of the product to the consumer. And we represent that using the demand curve. The demand curve represents how much consumers are willing to pay for a product or the value of the product to them in terms of utility or happiness. So price discrimination allows the firm to increase prices only for the high willingness to pay consumers while keeping prices lower for the low willingness to pay consumers, which can potentially benefit both the firm and consumers in the sense that those consumers will have increased access to the product. In order for price discrimination to occur, we have to have market power. We have to have some control over the price. And we also have to know something about our customers' willingness to pay. So we have to have some knowledge related to this willingness to pay or the value of the product to different customers. And then we also have to be able to prevent trade between consumers, because if I have a low price for some consumers and a high price for other consumers, then the low price consumers can clearly just buy a whole bunch of this product and sell it to the high price consumers and make a profit through arbitrage. There's an arbitrage incentive. And so in order for this to work, I have to be able to, something has to prevent that from happening. So we have to be able to prevent resale of the product. And so we typically see price discrimination as being more common in the service industry or in products that have to be consumed by the person that purchases them. So we're going to think of some examples now, and hopefully this will become more clear how frequently we see this in practice as we talk through the examples. But in economics, we separate price discrimination into really three different categories: first degree or perfect price discrimination, and then second and third degree, which we kind of group together to talk about imperfect price discrimination. So first degree price discrimination or perfect price discrimination is one theoretical extreme where the firm is able to see into everyone's soul to ascertain their true value of the product and charge them exactly what they are willing to pay. So the firm can charge consumers a price that's exactly equal to their willingness to pay. So we have some examples of this, not too many, but some examples of situations that probably get pretty close to perfect price discrimination. Reverse price auctions, where we start out with a really high bid. We say, something nobody's going to pay, and then the price comes down. And as soon as someone says, I want it, that person gets it, right? So your incentive is to say that you want the product as soon as it gets into your willingness to pay range, and that does a pretty good job of eliciting people's true willingness to pay. There's a couple other auction formats that aim to get at willingness to pay. We also have markets where we haggle that follow kind of a similar pattern. So in the US, we don't have too many markets where haggling is very common, but if you go to other countries, you might find that you go to a market, there's no price, and in order to buy something, you have to negotiate with the seller. In this situation, the seller typically starts out at a very, very high price, something that you might be horrified to hear, and then you say, no, that's way too much. No, I'll offer you this, and they come down, and then you make a counter offer, and it's a very long, drawn out process. But the idea is very similar actually to the reverse auction. They make this kind of uncomfortable transaction. They try to make this transaction as long and drawn out as possible, so that once they get into the price range that you're actually willing to pay, you just say, okay, I'm done. I will take it. Here's your money. So haggling, markets where there's haggling kind of get at this as well. There's other markets where firms kind of fluctuate the price very frequently. So airlines, what's happening is that the airlines fluctuate. The price of air travel fluctuates all the time. So you know this, if you've ever purchased flights, you check, the price goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, and you have to try to guess when to buy it. If you are willing to pay a higher price, you might just not bother checking all the time. You might just buy the ticket and be done with it. If you are not willing to pay a higher price, then you're going to be willing to jump through more hoops in order to get that lower price. And this kind of pricing kind of bleeds into second degree price discrimination, where firms get consumers to self-sort into groups. So here, what's happening is that the firm has some lower price, but you have to jump through hoops to get that lower price. And that's going to happen in situations where, we have coupons or rebates. Typically, this has to be kind of a hassle to go through. Otherwise, everyone would do it, right? So the high willingness to pay customers are not going to spend their time clipping out coupons, but the low willingness to pay customers will. You might also see block pricing here, or quantity discounts, product differentiation. So if you have a product that comes in some cool colors and some not cool colors, so this happens sometimes with electronics or stand mixers, right? Like, you can sort the consumers into groups based on willingness to pay just by making the products very slightly different. They don't actually have a difference in the cost of production, but you're charging different prices simply to sort the groups. Some subscription models, sales, where you have to wait in line, fall into this category. For the purpose of this class, we're actually going to kind of focus most on first degree and third degree price discrimination, where firms are charging different prices to different groups of consumers based on observable characteristics. So third degree price discrimination is where we get different prices for different groups based on some observable characteristic that we think is correlated with willingness to pay. So examples in real life are discounts to students, seniors, children. These are all groups of people who have below average willingness to pay because they have below average incomes. And so we tend to see discounts offered to these groups as a form of price discrimination. We also sometimes see prices differ for women and men. If you look at dry cleaning or haircuts, Those services tend to have higher prices for women who we might think are more willing to pay for those services than men are. Now that's actually illegal. So in order to discriminate based on sex, but if the firm, in order to do that, has to argue that it's a higher cost to provide those services to women than it is to men, I think is many times a very thin argument. So I'm going to put that here. And then we also have seen price discrimination based on location or zip code. Again, these are differences in cost that are not explained by differences in or differences in price that are not explained by differences in the cost of production. Rather, they are driven by differences in the willingness to pay of consumers. So we know that companies online offer discounts to different people depending on where they are located when they're searching for the product, etc. So that's, and you know, if you're looking for a hotel on your mobile device on your phone, you're at the last minute, you're likely to get a lower price than if you're looking on your desktop. So we know that firms engage in this sort of price discrimination, all of these types of price discrimination. And now what we want to do is look at their impact on the markets. So we're going to start here by thinking about perfect price discrimination or first degree price discrimination using this simple graph here. And what we want to think about is how would the firm engage in sales and set prices if they could charge every customer their reservation price? So recall that demand represents the reservation price for each customer. And so the firm is going to charge each customer something that's exactly equal to their reservation price. So everybody pays a different price, and that price is the highest price they're willing to pay. So now if we think about what producer surplus looks like, well, it's the area between the price and the marginal cost curve, which is the entire triangle here, and will sell as long as that price is higher than marginal cost, because that is gonna always give us the highest profit, right? The difference between this and when we have a uniform pricing within a monopoly is that we can lower the price for the next customer without lowering the price for all the previous customers. So our marginal revenue here is equal to the set of prices, and we produce all the way out to the socially optimal quantity. Producers capture all of the surplus, so producer surplus is equal to total surplus, but there's no deadweight loss. Consumers earn zero surplus, but you will notice that every consumer that wants to buy this product is able to buy the product. Unlike the monopoly, where we have a group of consumers that would like to buy the product but are unable to do so.